And buonasera a tutti. Good evening, y'all. It is October 9th, just past 7 p.m. Central. I'm sorry, 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central. I'm your host of What's the Scoop, Ryan Scoop Woodhams, and this is my great co-host, Mr. Brandon Furtado. Brandon, how you doing, buddy?
Couldn't be better, Scoop. Sucks we're missing a member today, but
Yeah, I was just going to mention that for anybody who tunes in and is curious, Jay is fine. He had a prior commitment tonight. It was actually for a period of time we weren't sure about what the show was going to be, or if we were going to do it this week, as I mentioned in an earlier episode. But we're going to hold the fort down as best as we can without our third wheel or our third leg of our bar stool, as it were. So. Jay, shout out to you. You'll be missed on this show, but we look forward to having you back next week, and I hope your event goes well. So, definitely after last night, his presence is especially going to be noticed and missed today. But, buddy, I'll start out this way because there are very few things that, and I'm not talking about sports here, I'm talking about in just general life. There are very few things that bother me to a legitimate extent. Very few things that offend me or anything of that nature. One of the few things that I promise you will get me riled up is don't insult my intelligence. And I am just bracing for the fact that that's exactly what we're going to get from this Yankees front office and management in the coming days. I don't know when, I don't know in what manner, I don't know to what capacity or to what extent. But I am just prepared that we are going to hear the same political, the same canned cookie cutter bullshit that we hear year to year. And I'm going to hear that, we were in the position to, make a run. There's a lot of randomness in the playoffs. Okay. So let's walk through the last few seasons. I'm not going to go back to COVID per se, but let's do the last few seasons. 2024, you get to the World Series, you were exposed against the Dodgers in perhaps the ugliest single game I've ever seen on a baseball field, especially played by the Yankees. You go back the year before. Obviously, it was 82 and 80, but again, that was a team that not really anybody had much expectations on. You go back the previous year, 2022. This is the team that I tend to defend more than others because, again, you just can't. That is the one year that I think it was legitimate to be able to say injuries really cost us, because I do believe that was an AL championship team, caliber team. Had we not lost, we lost so many people. We lost LeMahieu, we lost Benintendi, we lost so many people at just the worst possible time. And quite frankly, I think Boone doesn't get enough credit for the managerial job he did for parts of that year. For part of July and August, we had guys leading the team offensively and defensively that shouldn't have even been in the starting lineup. But then you go back to 2021, and I know Jay and you and I all kind of referenced that as one of the teams that really hurts. Not only losing to Boston in a one-game playoff, but getting beat by our own players to an extent. We had Garrett Whitlock facing us that game. I remember where I was. I was at a Dunkin', posted up with a college friend of mine. Shout out to Skylar. While I was, we both were seniors at Seton Hall, and we were posted up watching that game. I was, she was a Red Sox fan, so she obviously enjoyed the game far more than I did. But this is really the one year in the last four that I'm just looking at, and I'm thinking I can't figure out what bullshit lame excuse they're going to try and throw at us, because there is no way you can gaslight us into believing that, this team was better than it was, or, we just, this, that, or the other. Injuries may have played a part, but Garrett Cole was injured all season long. So it's not like you didn't foresee that happening, or it's not like you didn't know that had happened. Now, I don't blame them for not playing on some of the bigger, starters who didn't end up getting moved in the first place. Guys like the Joe Ryans, or it's not like we didn't pay to the level that they didn't get moved at all. So there was some consideration that there was some fool's gold there in terms of those guys actually being available. But I look at the holistically. And so if they try and sell us on the injury shit, then we know that's, because again, the other injuries that we had what? We lost Judge for 15 days, 2 weeks. And of course, every game matters, but it's not like Judge, missed 3 or 4 months of the season, or even 6 weeks of the season.
Yeah.
And even when he came back, you pretty much put yourself in a position to be able to. I mean, again, you were within the final day of winning the division, despite the fact that you pissed away an 8-game lead in May, or after May, rather. So all of that coming together, I'm genuinely curious what it's going to be that we're going to have to hear from these people, because I know Ken Rosenthal said back in August that not going far enough could be the end for one or both of Cashman and Boone. But I think that once they got through the Boston series, and I think that once they won that game against Toronto, even though it was only one game, I think that in their mind, I think it's enough to warrant running it back. And I hate that. I have defended Cashman a good amount of times. I've defended Boone a good amount of times. But it's not enough to just sell changing a couple base coaches out. It's not enough to just sell, changing out an assistant hitting coach or an assistant pitching coach. That is not enough, because this is now your 16th consecutive year not winning at all. And, when you say you believe in your process, okay, but your process hasn't yielded results. And I'm going to go back to something that actually you sent me a little while ago, and then I'm going to turn it over to you to say your opening piece. But I'm going to take it back to something you sent a little earlier. I'm trying to figure out if you sent it privately or actually I think you might have put it on a public post. But basically, it was showing the guys that have been there for over 20 years, and it was guys like. Obviously Cashman, but it was also Gene Afterman. It was, I think Tim Naring was on there. I think Damon Oppenheimer was on there. Kevin Reese, Michael Fishman, even, who I've defended quite a bit. But again, we're not the Colorado freaking Rockies. We're not the Dallas Cowboys. We're turning into them fast and furious because we keep talking about how good the old things were, and the fact that we're the number one brand in the fact that we are actually rapidly turning into the Dallas Cowboys genuinely pisses me off and makes me sick to my stomach, because that's basically what it is. It's basically it's people selling us on the brand, the history, or whatever. What have you done for me lately? I just watched the Washington Nationals in 2019 won the World Series. They had never even been to the World Series before. One of only two teams, along with the Seattle Mariners. One of only two teams that had never been to the World Series before. And I just watched them fire Mike Rizzo in the past year, less than 6 years after bringing them their first title ever and their first appearance ever in the World Series. It has been now, I know that they went last year, but since the last actual win, it has been 16 seasons. Mm-hmm. And it feels like Cashman has a job until he doesn't want it anymore. I don't think that's the same case for Boone. And if I'm honest, I think that Boone should have a colder seat than Cashman should. Yeah. Because I think Boone is oftentimes maybe not just managing, but I think in general his job, whether it's managing, coaching, during the game, whatever. I think in a lot of times, and it's not just the analytics. I know I'm going to hear that buzzword a million times, but it's not just that. I think in a lot of cases, he's doing his job with one hand tied behind his back, and it's not just and many people have said this. I don't think it's so fair to call him a Cashman puppet, because I think that's I think that's disrespectful to Boone himself, but inherently, and again, and here's something I will say. I'm a big pro analytics guy. I'm a big pro. I've studied sabermetrics for literally about a decade and a half, close to a decade and a half of my life. I've read countless books on it. I've tried to understand, how certain things came together. And if people think that this started in 2002, they're missing it, because this started with the Yankees back in, I'm sorry, not started with the Yankees, but it started for the Yankees way back, even in the 90s and before. You can find the beginnings of this. So, but again, it only works if you know what you're doing. I don't care how analytical you are or non-analytical you are if you don't know what the hell you're doing. And it is evident now that department run by Michael Fishman, I don't know if they are just not using things correctly. I don't know if they are using things too much. I think it's possible they're not using things enough in some capacities and then overdoing it elsewhere to try and, course correct and overcompensate. But the fact is that that graphic that you posted, I think, is a perfect microcosm for why we are where we are right now. Because I've said earlier that in this season multiple times that I'm not a fan of change for change's sake. That being said, when you have 7 people in leadership positions, I think it was 7 people that don't have to be concerned about their job for pretty much no matter what. And again, I'm cognizant of the fact that our version of no matter what, our 2 worst seasons that you and I have seen, I'm aware, are 82 wins and 84 wins, which I'm aware are pipe dreams for a lot of teams. I'm aware of that. But face it, this is New York, this is the Yankees. It's a different standard here. It just is. And people are going to chime in and say, well, batting average this or home runs this. That is not a new thing. If you go back to, if you look at the trends year to year, league wide, not just Yankees, league wide, batting average collectively has been going down since the beginning of the 1980s, since the 1981 strike and even a little bit before. Batting average has precipitously gone down league wide. So that's an argument I'm not trying to hear from a lot of Yankees fans, because I think that they haven't done a lot of research on that. But again, you can tell that I'm pissed off for a lot of reasons. I think that there are deep-seated, bleach, acid type things that need to be scrubbed out of this organization and completely redone. But you can't sell me on 27 rings of history. You can't sell me on being the number 1 brand. You can't sell me on any of this crap and any of this garbage that you're trying to sell me on if I don't have a ring on my hand from the last 16 years. Because that's what the Yankees are supposed to be about. That's what the Yankees, built themselves on for 100 years. And I'm sorry, getting to 1 World Series and getting humiliated in Game 5, that's not the Yankee standard. That's not going to cut it. And you have no excuse for the rest of this season. You had arguments to get yourself out of it a couple times the last few years. You have none for this season. Go to you, Brandon.
Yeah, so many people, especially like the older generations, are like, oh yeah, you weren't alive for the 80s into the 90s like Yankees and how bad they were. I understand that it's that we weren't alive for how bad they were, but we're not in control of that. But the fact of the matter is, what they waited, what was it, 18 years for a ring, pretty much, or something like to that effect.
It was 78 to 96.
It was 16 years for a World Series appearance, but it was 18 years for a ring. And we're getting to that now. We've just tied the second longest drought, World Series drought in franchise, World Series winning drought, I should say, in franchise history.
Yeah.
So we now are on that threshold where, especially with the talent that they have, the core is getting older. Judge is going to be 34 next year. Garrett Cole's going to be 35 coming off of Tommy John. Stanton, I don't know what happened, but all of a sudden he can't hit a fastball to save his life, which is kind of depressing to see, especially this postseason. Him being
I'm going to pull up some postseason numbers in a minute, but I wanted to let you get your thoughts out first.
Yeah, I look at it and I go, I hate when a lot of older generations are and it's weird. It's weird how the older generations who they've seen a lot of Yankees wins, but then a lot of them will turn, like people like Michael Kay will turn around and say, "Oh, younger Yankee fans are spoiled because of their past success." We haven't seen it.
Well, that's the thing, and I like Michael Kay. Usually, I like him more as an analyst than a broadcaster, to be honest.
Yeah.
But that is so cognitively dissonant because we are the generation that knows Yankee success the least. 49 to 53 won every single season. Yep. 96 to 2000 won 4 out of 5 seasons. 4 out of 5 seasons.
4 out of 5,
we're the and then of course, other than the generation that is not really here anymore, which was the pre-1923 generation. Other than that generation, and they only existed for 10 years as the Yankees there, because before that they were the Highlanders. We're the generation that knows Yankee October success the least. So that just makes no freaking sense.
Yeah, 25 years and 1 ring. is not. It's just that's not good enough. That's not Yankees baseball. Like that's we're not saying that they have to win every single year, but one ring.
No, and that's not realistic in this day and age either.
Yeah, but one ring in 25 years. It's like New York sports in general prides themselves on being a championship contender. It's a big market, big media, big teams, whatever it is. But
they ain't done that for the last 15 years. Wasn't the last New York champion like the Giants in 2012 or something?
It was the last one technically. If you count women's sports, was New York. It was the New York Liberty.
Oh, my bad. I'm sorry.
But the thing is that but we're talking about like the I'm not gonna say actual sports. Women's sports matter,
no,
but
big four sports.
But the big sport, the men's side of things. But look at. I mean, I'm not a Rangers fan. I got my Devils jersey on for tonight, but I mean, look at the Rangers. No cup in 30 years. Look at the Islanders. What? No cup since 1980, if I remember correctly. Maybe.
You've forgotten more hockey than I've ever learned, so you would know that more than I would.
I mean, but the Islanders are just atrocious. They're like the little brother, completely little brother. And then you get to
there's always that joke that like Islanders fans are also Mets and Jets fans, and Yankees fans are also Rangers and Knicks fans.
Yeah. And then you get to the Jets. No Super Bowls since Joe Namath did the guarantee. Giants, they have a ring in the 2010s, but since then they've been a dumpster fire. So for almost the last 15 years, the Giants have been a dumpster fire organization. So now we get to the Mets side of things. Mets are the little brother in New York. They made a World Series. I think it was 10 years ago or almost 10 years ago. But
it's exactly 10 years ago because they lost in 15.
Yeah, but still, but the Mets overall are not a World Series. They haven't been a World Series contender really for most of their history. The Yankees, one ring in 25 years. So when you look at really the last 30 years in New York sports, there's almost nothing to show for it.
No, Los Angeles has completely eaten New York's lunch over the past 2 decades.
Okay, so it's like if you add up all the rings in the last 30 years, you have since 95, you have the 5 from the Yankees, which but one in 25 years.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's also misleading because it's
also that's what I'm saying.
For the first 5, for the first 5, we're in that last or that's first 6 years.
And it's like we were alive in 2000, but barely. We were newborns.
When they won that 2000 ring, I was 2 months old.
Yeah, when they won it, I was 8 months old. I was born in February, so 8 months old.
Okay, yeah.
But so that's not really cutting it. And then you've got, the Giants, two rings. In a relatively short span, but like I said, for the last 15 years, dumpster fire. Jets, historically, dumpster fire. Islanders, dumpster fire. It's like on a city that prides themselves on sports, and you know what? Well, I'll finish this before we get to some comments. I know we have a lot. But for a city that prides themselves on sports, and for a city that's considered one of the greatest cities in the world, not even just in the United States, in the world, that little championship success in the last 25 to 30 years is unacceptable. It's beyond acceptable. It's not good enough.
No, and I think what's even more concerning or upsetting to a lot of people, myself included, now more than ever, is that the fire and the hunger that seems to just, if it's there, I don't think it's shown to the level that fans want. Now, again, I'm not saying to go out there and be George Steinbrenner and change everything every time the team's down by 2 runs. I'm not saying that, because whether people want to acknowledge it or not, that did not yield results for almost 2 decades. But that being said, this is way too much of an overcorrection. David Burns says, LOL, that's in the song of Janet Jackson, what have you done for me lately? Jody says the Savannah Bananas wouldn't hire Boone. All right, so Jody's in normal form tonight. Nikki says, "Let's go Devils," and I'm rooting for the Giants for one night only. Good luck with that. Kenny says, "Good evening, fellas. Once again, we've been brainwashed. I'm not going to vent. Can't relate. I'll point out the good. We have a potential future first baseman in Rice and future potential ace in Schlittler. Not many, but at least there are two. I agree with that."
Yeah, so do I.
Jody says, "Rings in New York are not the standard anymore." Unfortunately, to some people that feels to be the case. I can't relate, and I hope that certain people, especially Hal, and people who we have to kind of, come hell or high water, we kind of have to trust. I hope that's not the case, but again, I obviously can't speak for anybody, but again, like I said before, results speak for themselves, and they've spoken pretty pathetically the last couple of years. Yankees being eliminated at home in the last three postseason appearances makes this even sweeter from David Burns. I can't honestly remember who he roots for baseball wise. I think he's a Cubs fan. Jody says, "You are right on batting average. 250 is the new 300. I agree with that and appreciate that, Jody. I think that's the first time he's said I'm right about something in the times that he's been watching the show. Just messing with you, Jody. There's a bot from Kick here that congratulations, you've gotten yourself kicked. Mr. Burns says the Jays dismantled the Yankees. I don't know if that was a misspelling or if he's trying to imitate David Ortiz, but yeah, with very little effort. Fudge did his best, but couldn't close the deal. That's one thing I will say. If you're going to tell me, I know what you said about he has to do it again. If your takeaway from this postseason is that Judge isn't clutch or Judge can't come through in big moments, I don't know what the hell to say to you at this point.
He was quite literally the only one in the batting order.
He's the reason that we got through to Game 4 in the. Sorry, my freaking cat. He's the reason that we got through to Game 4 in the first place. Yep. And what did he hit? What did he hit? Like 600 or something?
Yeah, in the DS, and then overall for the playoffs, he hit 500.
Yeah, like and what? Oh my god. And again, people say it's about what you do in the World Series. Okay, but how many times have we seen that of a 26-man roster, one player can't get you to the World Series yourself? I agree that I won't say it hurts his legacy. I agree that it won't help him elevate himself really to the pantheon of the all-time greatest of the greatest Yankees. Not for anything that he did wrong, but because of just other players have accomplished more. And what are you trying to accomplish? But I apologize. I don't know what to do with this freaking cat. But at this point, I feel bad for him. So it's one of those tough things where it's less about what I'm holding against him and more about just what I can't, elevate him to the same level as some others. But if you're actively holding it against Judge that, he hasn't hit in a World Series, well, he has to get there first. And he's he's only one of 26 that have to get there. Jody says, Albert Einstein once said, doing the same thing over and over is expecting different results is insanity. And I agree with that. Yes, that's exactly what the Yankees are doing. When they bring Cashman and Boone back every single year. Again, I think it goes a lot deeper than just those two. This is, again, when I say this is not an outward defense of Cashman in particular. Again, so when I say that it's a wider thing than just those two, I am not actively saying, this is a positive for Cashman. I'm just saying that we need to, if you're going to actually get to the problem, you have to actually look at the scope, I think, a little bit wider, because, again, you named those, or you didn't name it, but you posted those, I think, 7 people.
Yeah, 5 to 7, I think it was, or something like that.
Yeah, who have all been in the same position for, literally since the 2000s. And so, no. But Scoops, from Kenny, Derek Jeter even said he believes Boone is being told what to do. Yeah, that was my point. I think he was told to bring in Ben Rice yesterday. Think about it. Why would pinch hit Rice when lefties warming up in the bullpen? It worked out, but that wasn't Boone's decision. I'm not really gonna sit here and kind of nitpick what I think was or wasn't Boone's decision, because again, frankly, we're never gonna get that answer, I don't think. But I do agree with the fact that, like I said earlier, I think Boone's managing with one hand time behind his back. I do think that he I'll put it this way. I think that he's there as more of a locker room manager, as more of like a keep things even keel, a sort of Derek Jeter-esque, don't get too high, don't get too low type of guy. And I think when you play 162 games, sometimes I think there's only so many answers you can give at a press conference, especially when Meredith Marakovitz and company are asking the same 3 questions every night. So I think that there's some of that, and that's not just to single her out. Most of the Yankees media is asking some of the same questions every night, so I don't mean to single her out. But so yeah, so that's kind of just where I'm at is I think that there are people from above, not just Cashman, but I do think he's someone who is culpable there. But again, I agree that I think that he's being sort of heavily influenced, and I think that he's in a position where basically if he does something that kind of goes against what he's getting from above, I think he basically he has to answer for it. Which again, I think that there's a lot of organizations that are run that way, but I think the Yankees, the more that I'm seeing, the more that I think the Yankees are one of the more restrictive ones. I certainly think that Alex Cora is given more leniency from Craig Breslow than I think Boone is given from the Yankees front office. Whether that's specifically Cashman or whether that's somebody that's working for Cashman, I don't know. Mr. Murphy's tuning in. Good to see you, Mr. Murphy. He says the season was such a big disappointment for both New York baseball teams. Couldn't agree more. I think it's horrific the way that the season unfolded for both, the way that the season ended for both. That is something I'm going to be curious to see because Steve Cohen has been he's kind of been the George Steinbrenner where it's he has made the big moves, he has signed the big deals, he has made the big trades, and he's got nothing more to show for it than Hal does. So it's it's one of those things where it's like just because you're spending that much money doesn't mean And again, that's one of the reasons why I'm kind of curious to see if we get a Detroit or Seattle versus like the Brewers World Series, because I'm so over hearing the stupid salary cap bullshit. Because I think that's a lot of what it is. Mr. Burns says, hey, Blue Jays had Vlad go off, but they also the difference was also they had Varsho go off the way he did. Judge was in his lonesome. Yeah, great, very much agree. Yeah. And that was one of the frustrating things was that you had guys that you trusted this year to go in a big moment like a Rice or a Stanton, or even honestly for a little bit of time there, Volpe. I do not understand why. One of the things that pissed me off the most that I haven't even mentioned yet, how the hell do you tell me for years, and I think this was valid, but how the hell do you tell me for years that you can't trade Dominguez, and he's going to be an integral part of your future, which I believe that he was going to be, and then not bring him in until the freaking last possible second.
Yeah, until the series is over. Yeah,
and this isn't the first time they've done that. They did that. It was either last year or the year, but no, they didn't make the playoffs the year before. I think it was last year. I think they did the same thing. So you respect this guy so much not to trade him, but you don't respect him enough to give him at least a full series, let alone a full postseason.
Yeah,
and you're bringing him as the last
one game,
which not only doesn't respect his talent the way that you claim to, but it also plugs up a spot on the bench. If you're not going to use him, bring in somebody at least you're going to use.
Yeah.
You don't get to manipulate your bench mid-series. You only get to do that in between series. So you basically just clogged up a spot on your bench. And we see how these managers work. These managers use every single guy on their bench in a lot of games.
Yeah, we didn't.
No.
It's I was sitting there and it wasn't just last night, but last night was like a microcosm of how I was feeling. When I'm like, okay, Volpe 0 for 1, it's still early. Once he gets to 0 for 2 in that game, to me, he shouldn't have saw another at bat. Like that's when you pinch hit him, especially that third time around when he was up, I think with a runner on second or whatever it was. I'm
blanking as well.
It was like the 6th, 7th inning, whatever it was.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about though.
But that's when you should have pinch hit him. Instead, he makes the second out of that inning because it was with 1 out.
Yeah.
Then you pinch hit Rosario for McMahon. If anybody should be pinch hitting at that point because it was a lefty on the mound, you should have pinch hit Rosario for Volpe.
Yeah.
You pinch hit
and I honestly would have probably had a quicker hook with Volpe because he what did he have? Like in 14 at bats, he had like 10 strikeouts in the series.
It was pathetic. I think like it was
yeah.
like the entire postseason. Well, he was like fifth. He was like it was like two for 17 in the postseason.
In the very beginning, I think against Boston, I think he was doing kind of what we remember from last year. But it was like it was absolutely insane to me, and like I wouldn't have even given him that. Like I know I'm looked at as kind of like the patient guy. I wouldn't have even given him a second at bat yesterday, and and that's why I say this offseason. I don't think I'm not necessarily going to just cut ties with Volpe per se, but I'm damn sure going out there and I'm getting somebody that I trust more at shortstop than I trust him. And if he wants to get his job back, he has to fucking earn it. I was trying to keep it somewhat clean, but there I go.
It's just the frustration that this team has given us for the last 15, 16 years. It's
and especially, and I've said repeatedly, shortstop is a position where I'm willing to sacrifice offense for defense. But his defense was like yesterday, multiple things. I don't know that anybody pissed me off in the last couple of games more than Jazz Chisholm did.
Yep.
Credit for the homer, but I felt like I was watching the worst of Robinson Cano all over again.
Yeah.
Because I am so sick and tired of this. He trusts his talent so much, which he's a very talented player, but he trusts his talent so much that his head isn't in it, and he thinks he thinks it's just natural, his God-given ability, or whatever religion he practices, if he practices one, that whatever ability he has is just going to naturally allow him to do. And I saw someone make this comment earlier today. I don't remember if it was Mark DeRosa or who it was, but he pointed out Jazz, because of his like style thing and whatever, he keeps using different gloves in every single game. He's like, are any of these gloves even broken in at this point? He says, if I'm out there in big games, I'm not changing a thing that I'm using with when it comes to what are you doing now? That when it comes to that, and he said that it may have been something as simple as the glove wasn't even broken in or something of that nature because he keeps switching them out, and it's just. And it wasn't something that I had even thought of when I played baseball. And I didn't really play infield like that. I played outfield. But regardless, I was getting so pissed off. And then he had an answer. It was like, I think it was the game before last, I want to say it was. But he was asked a question, and this made me so mad. Where because he had the home run in that game, but then he was caught. It wasn't even the yawning thing, which that annoyed me enough.
Yeah.
But there was another thing that happened where he just completely had a mental block, and then it was all this. We talked earlier in the week on the I think it was the Eagles show about players who are struggling, or maybe it was even maybe you were even talking about Aaron Judge, where it was like I want to see him take more accountability with me and not just we.
That was
Every time I hear Jazz Chisholm quote unquote take accountability, it's all no. Every time I see Jazz Chisholm take accountability, I always hear we like all that the other night it was like we didn't do this with it. Okay, the whole team didn't f up in that moment. The whole team isn't playing laissez-faire defense.
Yeah.
I mean, at times they are, but I'm not saying Jazz Chisholm lost us this series. But if I had to, and I didn't do this, but if I came in here with a top 3 or top 5 Yankees that I blame for us losing this series, he's damn sure one of on the top half of that list.
Yeah.
And I don't think he's a free agent after this year, but I don't want him back I don't want him back in New York after into next year.
I just watching him. Listen, it's like because for the whole year, everybody's like, oh, extend Jazz. So 40 for 40, 30 for 30 guy this season, 40 for 40 overall in 162 games, and I'm like, but you can have that talent, but talent means nothing if you lack drive and focus. And it's like, talent only gets you so far. It's only half the equation. But the other half he doesn't have. There's nothing in that brain that tells me that this guy's going to be a responsible leader in the clubhouse besides being just a good baseball player,
Yeah.
Not even in the field, at the plate. Like, it's one thing, he's sitting there, he smashed that home run in game 3, then he flips the bat like he does. But I'm like, okay, but he's one guy that, when you talk about not getting too high, not getting too low, like certain guys you want to have fire, some guys you don't. But he's like someone's got to tell him, hey, you got to rein this crap in because this is not helping the team. It's not helping you or the team. We're not saying you have to change who you are, but You can't go out there and think you're the greatest thing since Barry Bonds or Ken Griffey when you're not.
No.
And
Congrats on the 30-30 season or whatever the hell it was, but I need a little bit more than that for you to cement your place in New York.
yeah,
You ain't all that.
He's talking as if he's a Yankees legend already, and it's like, come on, man, you are not even close to that. Like
he was maybe the fourth best or the third best player on this team this year, and I'm being generous there.
Yeah, I think so too. Because I mean, honestly, by the end of not postseason side, by the end of the regular season, if you would have told me who my top 3 players were, or hell, even top 5, I would have told you probably Judge. And in no order, but Judge is number 1. But then after that, like what? Rice, Grisham, Belly, Stanton. That's 5 already.
Yeah, and we haven't even gotten to pitchers there.
Yeah, and that's not even pitchers because at the end of the regular season would have been Fried, Rodon, Schlittler. That's 8 guys already. That are like
I certainly think Bednar was more valuable than Jazz.
Yeah, Bednar.
I'm gonna get to some more,
9. Yeah,
I'm gonna get to some more questions or comments real quick. Kenny was just sending his same thing. Kurt has entered the chat literally, and he says it's over, boys. Grisham should never wear a Yankees jersey again. I kind of agree with that. Volpe should never wear the Yankees jersey again. 2 for 17, 1 for 15. I certainly agree. I certainly agree he shouldn't have the starting job. Again, I'm not going to go so far as to say completely get, because again, it costs us nothing to, keep him and at least see if he can, as a back version compete for an job. I think completely getting rid of him where I would go. I'm not making to me right now. He's a defense type of guy right now. Not even defense, but like you don't say Brent cooking over.
Yeah.
Mr. Murphy saying a new manager because till cash. Mr. Burns says yes, I'm a Cubs fan. And there's this. Kurt, I think he's trying to get to us. He says, "Don't worry, guys. New York's real Knicks. So we'll see about that."
Well, I'm a Nets fan. I'm a Nets fan, Kurt. We've been over this. I don't want the Knicks to win. So
yeah, I think he might be trying to get an instigator going. But Mr. Murphy says Kurt streams again. Jody, I love this question. Is Derek Jeter a real option as the next manager? I don't believe so. Quite frankly, I don't think Jeter wants to be a manager because typically players that want to be managers typically have at least one interview within 10 years after retiring. I feel like if he wanted to be, I feel like we would have at least heard the conversation at some point with some team. I think it's telling to me that he went to the front office road with Miami instead. Obviously that didn't work out. But no, I don't think so. David Burns pulling for the Cubs to make the World Series. If the Yankees fire Boone, could we maybe see the Yankees trade for a manager? How about cash from Tampa Bay? Give the Rays Clark Schmidt and a prospect. So I'm going to answer this question multifacetedly, and then I'll kick it over to Brandon to give his thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
I think we could see the Yankees try to trade for a manager. Yes. Cash from Tampa Bay, I don't see any reason why the Rays would trade him, especially to a division rival. And I certainly don't think they would give him up. I think he's right now the longest tenured manager in baseball. I don't see any reason why they would give him up for a prospect and a pitcher who, while good, is coming off of his second Tommy John surgery. I know it's the Rays. I know that they, are fairly good with pitching, especially kind of guys who have been banged up a little bit. But no, for Kevin Cash, and especially in your division, to me, that's a non-starter.
Yeah.
Not a non-starter from the Yankees perspective, but non-starter from the Rays perspective. Eagles roll tonight easily from Kurt. Volpe couldn't hit the ball if he batted with those three bats. Burns says, good question. Wouldn't that be awesome? Bring in another old but good and be like the old team again. He says Jeter might not be a bad manager. And again, I don't think I'll put it this way. I don't know I would be a bad manager. He's going to believe he'd be a good manager. I will say we've seen there's a lot of precedent for successful players, great as or head coaches than vice versa. Just baseball, that's across multiple sports. Yogi Berra, one of the greatest Yankees ever, not a great teams. Ozzie Guillen, great. I think didn't get as many chances as he should have as a manager, but had a horrible. Now again, I get that he managed the White Sox and the Marlins. I understand that, but again, I'm giving examples where, and I do think there's an element of this, and I'm not saying I necessarily agree with this, but I do think there's an element of this. I think it's kind of similar why Mattingly has never been a serious contender for the Yankees. I think that these like all-time greats within the Yankees organization as players, I think that there's a I don't know how to really put it to words right now, but I think that there's a desire to stay away from those types of people as Yankee managers or as Yankee managerial candidates. I'm struggling to put it to words right now, but I think that they just in general would rather not have a former player come in as a manager, it not go well, and then I mean we see what's happening with Boone already. Like already Boone's image in a lot of fans' minds is tarnished from being Aaron effing Boone from 2003. A lot of fans have already turned on him. That may have previously loved him for what he did in 03 because of his So I think that perhaps because of that, or at least partially connected to that, maybe not at all. But I do think that might be a factor as to why they are not looking to do that. And again, I've been someone repeatedly who has said I don't want Mattingly as a manager of the Yankees.
There's a question from Keith here. It says, steal a manager and the culture from a team still in the hunt. Who do you choose?
Oh, I love that.
Because I have an answer right away that I like.
Go ahead.
I would say Craig Counsell. What he did for both the Cubs and Brewers, we have the Craig Counsell Bowl, going on right now. But what he did for both those teams, being the winningest manager in Brewers history and turning them into a playoff, postseason team, and then right now with the Cubs, bringing them back to the postseason. I mean, I just think he gets the best out of his players. He's also a younger guy, so players kind of relate to him. But I mean, he just gets wins. So for me, I mean, if there's one guy I'm circling, it's Craig Counsell. I mean, I don't think obviously, I don't think the Cubs would give him up, but he's the guy out of all these teams that I like most, I think.
That's interesting. That wasn't one of the main guys that I would have come up with, but I like that. It's I'll just go with, and again, I'm kind of wavering between two on this, but I'll say Pat Murphy and the Brewers, just because there's been such a greater than the sum of the parts sort of thing that they've had going on. Murphy wasn't even supposed to get the job, and he's done 10 times more than they could have hoped with it. I don't want to see the Yankees manage like a small market team, but if you're asking me about culture and in terms of what I know he's brought to the Milwaukee, both in the clubhouse and on the field, and the fact that these guys, when we just saw a team that, everybody for the most part was playing below their talent, a lot of guys punching above their weight class, I'd have to say Milwaukee and Pat Murphy, which if you told me a couple of years ago, I'd be wanting to emulate the Brewers culture, I think I would have. Yeah. You know how to finish that sentence. Internet is chopsy scoops. Oh, okay, cleared up. Thank goodness.
Yeah.
And then there's a question here from Keith again. Saying, looking back, who have the more respected career, Trout or Judge?
Well,
go ahead, and then I'll answer this.
Respected is kind of a weird term because they're both respected for what they've done.
Yeah.
But if you're thinking about who has the better career, it's Aaron Judge. And I don't think it's even a question. I mean, listen, Mike Trout got off to such a hot start, but it didn't last very long. And injuries play a part. Judge had a couple injuries early in his career, but he's been healthy for the last 3-4 years. I
still don't understand how he's gotten healthier as he's gotten older.
And the thing is, and not just healthy, he's gotten better as he's gone on. and he was already good to begin with. So I think, between both those guys, I mean, you know, and the good thing about them is, and why this is why respected is also weird saying to say respected, because they both stayed true to their teams. Judge could have chose more money. Judge could have chose more money to go somewhere else. I think that even the Giants had offered him more money, and
San Diego actually offered him the most, oddly enough.
And he chose to stay with the Yankees. Trout chose to stay with the Angels. Which is not. I mean, listen, talk about dying on your. That's dying on your sword right there.
No, for real.
But both those guys will go down as the best. I think Trout will go down as one of them, not the best player of the 2010s. Judge will go down as one of the best players of the 2020s.
Yeah.
And
I think he's the best player of the 2020s outside of Ohtani.
Yeah. And so, they'll both be respected for what they've done, but I think if it's the better career, I mean, Judge has no signs of slowing down. Trout just needs to stay healthy, which I don't think he can do anymore. So, and Judge is already putting up numbers that have already, especially home run numbers have already passed Trout. They're both great outfielders.
Yeah.
So Judge and the Yankees, we always say that there'd be no postseason without Aaron Judge. There's the cat.
Everybody meet the cat that I've taken.
We always say, there'd be no postseason without Aaron Judge. I mean, listen, we would wish to see Mike Trout, in the postseason, but it hasn't been that way. But Judge has more postseason appearances. Judge had a great postseason this year. He's made a World Series. He hasn't won one, but he's made one. So I think overall the better career is Aaron Judge, but I think they're both respected in the same light.
Real quick, I just before I answer that, I just want to get to this question here real quick. And it said you can or you could have had Tito and you passed. I understood the question as teams still involved, which is why I didn't say the Reds. If the question had applied to all postseason teams, like that made it all and have now been eliminated, I would have had a hard time turning down Terry Francona. As many people know, I consider him the greatest manager.
That would be interesting, though, bringing over a former Red Sox manager.
I mean, that would kind of be a little bit painful for me. But again, you want to bring over the best guy that you can. So, it's kind of the managerial version of what people said for a little while about bringing over potentially Carlos Correa. Scoops, thoughts on the Broncos' big win? I mean, again, like I said the other day, congrats to you guys. I think we learned very little about either team that day. I think the Eagles rather. I think have a lot of things to clean up, and I think that they are in an interesting situation where they kind of almost overcorrected with AJ Brown, where they weren't giving him the ball a lot, and now they're trying to, I think, overgive him the ball. And Brandon knows how pissed off I was when I saw him just kind of, pussyfoot around on the way where that should have been. He should have just been ghost on that one play up the line. I don't know if they're at. I know they had a team meeting the other day. I don't know if they're at a point now where there necessarily is going to be a split, but I do think that this has never been a pass heavy offense.
No,
and it's never needed to be. So in my mind,
it was like it's never been pass heavy, even when Donovan McNabb was quarterback. So like,
see, I was just talking about the last couple of years.
No, but even as far back as that, I mean, because during the Carson Wentz era, they threw a lot, but Carson Wentz also threw a lot of interceptions. Like the Eagles have been best run for the last 20 years through their running game.
Best run. That was a good one. I don't even know if you're trying to do that, but good one. But again, so I don't know. And now there's some reports that what's his name is Devontae Smith, excuse me, is also not thrilled or whatever. But see, here's the thing. In my vantage point, and I've never played football. In my vantage point, winning should cure all. If winning does not cure all, or if you're upset that because even though we won, you didn't get 6 touches or whatever, and then now you're not doing anything with the touches that you are now getting. Now that we've gone out of our way to try and get you the ball, then I don't know what you want me to do. You're more than welcome to go and get your touches. Excuse me. You're more than welcome to go back to Tennessee and get your touches on a team that's going to finish with a top 2 draft pick and not try and get another Super Bowl ring.
Yeah.
And if that's what you want to do, be my guest, because I am so sick and tired of week to week hearing the questions about, is AJ Brown this? Are Hurts and Brown and Saquon and Smith this and one thing or another? These types of things, all they do is distract from winning. And this is the exact opposite of what Hurts says when it comes to keeping the main thing the main thing. This is the exact opposite of that, and I'm tired of it.
Yeah, I don't want it. Mind you, we've won 20 out of our last 22 overall games. Like, no other team in football does what we do.
No,
and that's just a fact.
Like, and that's another thing that doesn't make sense to me is why did we pivot away to that to try and appease AJ Brown?
Like that, well, I don't understand. Listen, this offense is not the offense that he thrived in back in 2022 and 2023. It's not the same offense, and it never was. But even last year, he was a 1,000-yard receiver. He missed a few games, but it was still over 1,000 yards and was an all-pro guy. He's been an all-pro guy all 3 years in Philadelphia. He's been basically a Pro Bowler all 3 years in Philadelphia. He's a Super Bowl champion who scored a touchdown last year in the Super Bowl. Like, how are you still upset?
Yeah, and that's why for a period of time I didn't believe that it was as legitimate as I thought that maybe people were stirring the pot or whatever you want to say. But if this is actually legitimate, then you're more than welcome to go to an 8-9 team and lead the team in stats wherever you want. That's not what Philly's about. That's not what Philly will ever be about. You're our number one receiver or whatever the case may be. But it is not going to hurt this team that much if you decide to go and stat pad somewhere else and Vontae becomes our number one receiver because because again that's part of the reason why I'll get to, and Saquon I'll also mention. People say, oh, he's having his lowest year with an Eagle, which, I mean, it's only his second year, but, he's having a slump with the Eagles. He's having a slump with the Eagles. I will also mention that our interior O-line being completely decimated does not help with that. Yep. We got second or third, which, again, I like our depth, but, again, that's what it is. It's depth. No one's going to say that your third string guard is going to be as good of a player on the interior for a long period of time as your starter. It's clear that we missed Mekhi Becton. It's clear that some of the realignments that we've had to make again are not conducive to Saquon being able to do as much as he did last year. No one expected him to do as much as he did last year, but this is definitely a further fall off than we wanted to see. Now, as the line starts to get healthy again, hopefully, I do believe that will pick back up. But it's just been a horrible combination between the injuries to the interior O-line and then trying to make,
it's a lot of it's play calling too. I mean,
where they're happy.
They're just the play calling this year in general. Because I know you said Scoop. You kind of let me when it comes to play calling, you defer to me on that one. But
yeah, of course, because that's not my place.
And this is one thing we've talked about on our football pod with Rob and Shane.
And football after hours, those guys are great.
And we've talked about it on the show too, but when you watch the Eagles games, and listen, I watch all my teams as close as I can. I try not to miss a single game. Even if I'm working, I'll still try to stream the game on my phone, whatever. I will watch my teams the day I die.
Yeah.
All four of my teams, all of them. But I think that, so when I'm watching the Eagles games, though, the biggest problem I have is that not so much last year, but definitely this year, it's just bland. The play calling is bland. It's generic. It seems like they're running Madden plays instead of running actual football creative concepts. It's a lot different. When you're running Saquon, and everybody's like, oh, well, Saquon's going to have a low year. But that's okay if you're a casual fan saying that. But when you actually watch the games, they are running him into a stacked box of like 7, 8, 9 guys every time he touches the ball. And that's not just with a healthy line. That's with second and third stringers in there. So
Right.
so the second he touches that ball in the backfield, there's two guys waiting to hit him before he even gets anywhere near the line of scrimmage.
Yes.
So and not for nothing, the way that they've kind of offset this is they've used him more as a pass catching back this year, which has actually worked for Philly.
Yeah, which he has not been bad at that. And it's definitely kind of a sorry, go ahead.
But I'm saying, but the thing is, like, if they want to get back to their strength, well, first of all, they need the offensive line healthy. And Landon Dickinson's not going to be healthy until pretty much the bye week. So, I mean, listen, Saquon doesn't need more than 6 touches like he got last week. But I don't want to see him, especially on the MetLife turf tonight. I don't want to see him get, I do not want to see him get like 20 touches. I would say between 15 to 18. And use them for a couple passing plays, and then that should be good enough to win. It's the Giants. You should beat them by about, roughly almost 3 scores.
I would love that.
But, I'm thinking like a 17-point kind of game. I'm like, in my mind, I'm thinking like, 30-13 or something like that. But it's rough when, I don't get kind of how the play calling is being done. And I love Jody saying Hurts is cheeks versus zone. It's okay if you actually, I mean, listen, you can find me stats, but I watch the games. Hurts does pick apart defenses when he's been asked to throw the ball. And not for nothing, he did pick apart that Broncos defense and would have won that game had AJ Brown not stopped running his route on an easy touchdown pass.
Yeah. And
I mean, he did listen, that Broncos defense is a top 5 defense. He put up 280 yards. He put up 280 yards and 2 touchdowns on it. So I don't think he's, so the whole he can't read a defense or he's bad against this defense or that defense is garbage. That's a BS take.
Yeah.
But I know that what this offense is capable of. That's why we were sitting at 4-1 and we're complaining about things. But it's just because it's like the Yankees. It's like there's a different standard here.
Right.
Where it's like you need to see them do what they are capable of, not do what they're currently doing. Because it's like, is it enough to win games with that talent? Yes. Just like the Yankees, you can win off of talent. Yes. But at the end of the day, you've got to do the little things right. You've got to make sure that the little details are ironed out. Because if you don't do that, it doesn't matter how much talent you have. You're not going to win anything at the end of the day when it comes down to the postseason or the playoffs. It's not going to happen. So, it's tough to pinpoint like any direct reason, but the reasons for the whole Eagles offensive struggles, it's kind of a top-down issue. It's not so much the players. It's really just a top-down issue. I mean, we even talk about a team meeting. It wasn't a full-on team meeting. It was only a meeting between Brown, Smith, and Hurts. Oh no, Brown, Saquon, and Hurts.
Brown, Saquon, and Hurts. Yeah, I should have been a little bit more clear there.
And and that's why I look at it and I go, okay, Saquon says they're completely fine, and I think Saquon's always saying the right thing. So I don't think he's somebody that's like trying to cover up issues. If Saquon says they're fine, like he's been a very kind of heart on his sleeve kind of guy. So I think that I believe they're okay, and even you got like usually when things are bad like they were in 2023. Jalen wasn't smiling in pressers. Like the other day when he gave his presser, he was, having a little bit of fun with the press. So I still believe things are okay. It's just to me, the only thing that's out of sync is just the injuries, obviously, because they have quite a few of them. And it's just AJ Brown being a diva wide receiver. Other than that, I don't think, and so it's that's my 3 things. Well, that's my 3 things with the Eagles: is the play calling, AJ Brown being a diva, and the injuries kind of on the offensive line. But AJ being a diva, that's something he has to correct with himself and the team. If it gets out of control, has to sit him down. But then if it's but the line will fix itself. They'll get healthy, and then the play calling it has to get better. That's just a thing that it can get better. It's just, can Kevin Patullo actually pull his head out of his what and wake up? Because tonight, if you struggle against the Giants, then I'm going to be kind of concerned going into the next 3 weeks before the bye. So, I look at that, or was it? Yeah, next 2-3 weeks before the bye, and I think that overall, this team at the end of the day will still find themselves in the playoffs. It's just in what condition between the health and the mentality of this team. Later in the season, like you don't want to finish on a 2023 note. You want to finish strong like you did in 24, or even in 22, going into the playoffs. So it's one of those things where it's just up to the guys in that locker room, and it's up to the coaching staff to realize, hey, if there's problems here, we got to sit down and talk about it now and iron it out now before they persist in around Thanksgiving and Christmas. So, I still believe that the win tonight, I think that, honestly, our offense, even with bad play calling, should beat them by at least, I'd say 13 points. So I do believe that, and I was going to get to that comment too. Philly's weapons are way too good to only
just winning, and I completely agree with that. And we kind of talked
Yeah.
about how they feel a little bit Chiefsy this year, where they won their first 4 games and were in position to win their 5th, but it was always too close for comfort. Like they should have been stamping, and that's why I was, when you said 17-ish points today, I'm not quite as confident. I feel like this is going to end up being, I think it could be a 2-possession win, but I think it's going to be somewhere closer to like the 10-point mark.
Yeah.
Just because this team is like, it's like when you order chicken wings and like for whatever reason, like when you put the bone down, there's still like too much meat. There's like a ton of meat still on it.
Yeah.
That's how this team has felt, where it's like, okay, great, you won, but it's not even at what cost, but it's like you won, but you still missed several opportunities, or you didn't take advantage of certain things, or you let them back into the game. If I watch us play another freaking 30-minute game tonight while the Giants play an hour, I'm going to lose my damn mind.
Yeah.
Because
it's got to be all 4 quarters. You can't.
It is. There are plenty of things that, are justifiable for a team that's had the injuries that they've had, or a team that's, this, that, or the other, because again, they are not a perfect team, and no one's going to pretend that they are. But their roster and their experience, and this not being a terribly different team from who they were back on February 9th, the excuses for or the reasons that this team has either lost to Denver or has won by narrower margin than they should have, it's just like it's not acceptable. Kenny says, my final thought: baseball season's over. Football was over for me before it started. Go Miami Hurricanes! Enjoy the game, fellas. Good luck, Kenny. Excuse me. And Peter says, we still have the Broncos, Mr. Kirkpatrick, or you still have the Broncos, Mr. Kirkpatrick. Jody says, Denver exposed a lot of things you can do on Philly. Where I'll give him credit is for 2 things. They know that he's good against the blitz, so they didn't, they kind of punted on trying to do that, and they basically were dropping guys back and forcing him to be, more of a lane technician, I guess you'd say.
Even then, I don't think that they really exposed. I think Philly just beat themselves in that game. I don't think they exposed Philly.
Well, the other thing that I was going to say is that, to his credit, statistically, yes, he was right that in terms of zone coverage, Jalen comparatively to other elements struggle. Yes, but again, those things don't have, which Peter said, Philly's trenches look soft versus Denver. Again, I'll say that about 6 of our linemen right now are second or third stringers, which again, I'm not saying it's an excuse, but I'm saying that, again, going up against a team that has top 5 lines on either side, we had to be prepared to win in other ways. And, we did not execute, but we didn't execute in stupid things. We didn't execute in stupid, and I wouldn't even say fundamentals. We didn't execute in just stupid, like baseline. Like again, we've talked about the AJ Brown thing. There's a couple of areas again where there were a couple of ticky-tack penalties that were called. But what I'm going to say before I'm not blaming the refs here. What I'm going to say is that you shouldn't have put yourself in a position for a couple of those things to get called, because
Yeah.
even if they're 50-50 shots, they wouldn't have also been called if you weren't putting yourself in a position for that. The couple of calls were just complete bullshit. But a couple of calls where a guy's hand was in a certain way, or a guy's like, there are some things where it's just you have to know technique wise is the word I was trying to think of. There are a couple things that technique wise you just have to know you can't do, especially not in front of a ref. So again, I don't think we learned a ton about either team last week. I still think there's two of the top 4 best teams in the NFL. And I think that again, Philly beat themselves.
Philly left overall. Philly left 10 points on the board between AJ Brown's missed stopping on his route for a touchdown, which would have been an easy walk-in touchdown, and then Jahan Dotson not getting his feet in on that deep ball to the sideline. That was a perfect throw. Like, that's what I'm saying. Is like Jalen Hurts' numbers might not be great against the zone, but he played really well against the Broncos. It was just guys kind of not being where they should be. Like it was AJ Brown stopping on a route. It was Dallas Goedert. He looked like he was lost half the day. Didn't know what route he was running. There was times where it's like Dallas Goedert.
That's what that was the next thing I was going to say. Is for all the criticism we're giving of AJ Brown, he didn't actually miss as nearly as the percentage of his targets that Dallas Goedert did.
Yeah, Dallas Goedert was just kind of reckless in that game against. Like he had no idea what he was doing. I mean, there was one where Jalen threw a perfect ball to the sideline, but Dallas Goedert turned the wrong way and the ball sailed over his head by like 3 yards. If he just runs a cleaner route there, that ball was caught on the sideline for a big game.
And that's why I was saying more technique than fundamentals, because it's Denver left 10 out there according to Jody.
Denver also scored 3 points through 3 quarters, and that was because of. I mean, listen, they have been maybe one bad overthrow. I think there was going to be for a touchdown, but I mean, the first overthrow that Bo Nix, well, not even overthrow, it was just an incomplete pass. I think it was to Sutton or Franklin. That one should have been caught.
I want to say it was Franklin.
But who knows if they scored there? Like, that one was. I mean, he was at the 30. Like, we have to see if they're going to score there. Like, the ones that Philly missed were like we're going to actually be scored. Yeah. Like that, like they were inside the red zone when it happened. Yeah. Like, but there was one deep ball. So I'll say they left 7 out there. I don't think they left 10. They definitely left 7. I remember there was a touchdown that got missed because Bo Nix overthrew. Yeah. But I think, but then again, I don't like I said, Philly was still up by 14 late in that game, had a chance to put it away, and AJ Brown stops running his route. If AJ Brown doesn't stop running the route, that game's over. It's 24-3, and we're winning. I mean, listen, even if the Eagles defense does start to let them back in the game, the final score is 24-18 or 24-17. The game's over. So, I
still, even if we win that game,
I still wouldn't feel happy about it. No,
because oh my God, there I go whacking my computer. It's like every show we're on, I feel like I have like one like just instance where I almost throw my computer. But no, I still have the issue where, like, because again, the margin in that game at what point was like 2 touchdowns or close to it. The fact that I can't feel comfortable, and again, I'm not saying that anything against Denver is comfortable. Denver's a very good team. Let me not.
We're not bashing. Denver's good.
Yeah, no, but you're also a very good team. So the fact that you can't feel at least somewhat confident at halftime with the lead that they had, and even in the beginning of the third quarter, and the fact that this is not the first time they've done that, the fact that we sat through that against the Rams, we sat through that against the Bucks.
Yeah,
like it's just there is too much of this playing half game football, if that makes sense. Jody says, with that PI's second to last play, is that one of the calls? I can't remember. Is that one of the calls I was bitching about?
The Dallas Goedert one at the 3-yard line when he got grabbed.
So yes, it was. I believe so. Again, I didn't get. I should have asked Coach DeBell, the gentleman who was a UFL official that we've had on a couple times. I should have asked him. I didn't think to do so before the show. But again, I believe so. I know there's a lot of people, and again, I know a lot of people took some of my words earlier this week as saying that the refs were the reason we lost the game. I do not believe that to be the case.
Yeah, I don't
Our
believe it
own
either.
our own mistakes cost us the game. But
Yeah.
my criticism about the refs was more basically in the situation that why are you out there making calls in crucial moments if you're not expected to get the call right? And basically, we're basically told you have to play better enough that so that the refs aren't, affecting the game. Okay, but they're the ones who make the calls in some do or die moments. So that's what was pissing me off more than anything else. I just want to emphasize that one more time.
Huge gain to start the game, by the way, for Saquon Barkley, 19-yard run.
Oh shit, I don't even have the game on yet. All right. So, do we want to? Do you have anything else you want to say, or do you want to wrap it up and we can start the game before we go on to the other show tonight?
No. I mean, listen, we got good field position to start the game. They messed up on the kickoff. They didn't put it in the landing zone, so we have great field position to start. Wow, Saquon has already got about 30 yards rushing. He just got another big 13-yard gain. The Giants are leaving holes all over the place so far. These first two plays.
Juicy.
But no, I think I think we're good to go. I mean, we covered Yankees, we covered the Eagles. We didn't get into much hockey, even though I wanted to. But I think
I apologize for that.
No, but that's all right. We'll get. I mean, it's only the first game of the season. So so far, I mean, I think we caught everything. Or at least the main things tonight.
And I think that the things that we didn't cover, I think it'll be better to have a full team next week to talk about anyway.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, because I think we'll want to get his takes on a lot of this too. But guys, oh my God, we had such a active comments chat tonight, or comments section tonight. I'm great. I want to express my gratitude to everybody who was on. We had the usuals from Kenny to Jody to Kurt to Mr. Murphy to Mr. Burns. Had some new faces in here. Peter Johnson. Appreciate that. He and some of these others were on as well. Mr. Brugman was on. Just want to give a few quick shout outs to, we had so many people on tonight. And I want to express my gratitude there. And we're going to go watch this game. Hopefully this is a much better game than we had to sit through last night. And that all being said, we'll see y'all next week. Have a good weekend. Enjoy your games. And as always, keep the main thing the main thing.
Mm-hmm.
Same scoop time next week. Same scoop channel. Scoop and Brandon out.